Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the 29th MedResults Network Educational Webinar. I'm Jamie Parrott, the COO of MedResults Network, and I appreciate you all taking time out of your day to be here. 2 weeks ago, we held our last webinar with our new partners at PCA Skin, and they're one of 5 new vendors we've added to the network since the beginning of summer this year. And in case you've missed any of our education or partnership announcements, we recently updated our vendor benefit list. And in addition to PCA Skin, our new list of vendors includes Olesen, which is a 3D imaging device for plastic surgeons, SBA Loan Group, and they offer growth capital, working capital, or capital equipment financing. Also RN Specialist Corp, and they offer a turnkey laser treatment service to all of our Southwest members. And finally, as you may have recently seen, we just added Cardinal Health ASC, which is their ambulatory surgery center division, and they now offer Tier 2 pricing to our surgeons with in-office operating rooms. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Tier 2 pricing, it's the same pricing that surgery centers and small hospitals receive. So it's a major win for our MedResults Network surgeons. And if any of you would like to receive a new copy of our vendor benefit or contact list, please don't hesitate to email me directly, and we'll be sure to get one of those out to you for your records. Also keep in mind that if you've missed any of our previous webinars, you can always access our recordings by visiting the MedResults Network website at www.medresultsnetwork.com. We have a whole list of archived webinars, and we're continually adding new webinars as they become available. And now for today's presentation, several months ago, you may remember that we invited our friend and partner, Olesen, to present on how to turn ratings and reviews into a sales and marketing strategy. And for those of you who couldn't attend or don't know Marie runs the La Jolla Cosmetic Surgery Center here in Southern California. She's also the founder of RealPatientRatings, which is a technology that produces 100% verified reviews for aesthetic providers. Marie's she's a true pioneer in the use of technology to increase patient satisfaction. And we've invited her back here today to give us some insight on several things that you may be doing that could be hurting your growth potential. So as Marie's going to be speaking a lot about patient feedback and review systems today, I just want to share some information that I recently read in a report from NorCal Mutual, who in addition to doing MedMal insurance does risk management for their medical providers. And their report addressed the importance of properly managing online reviews. And I mention it because I was really shocked to find that 37% of patients avoided a physician with bad ratings, and 35% selected a physician based on good ratings. So I'm sure Marie will share when she goes through her presentation today that we should never underestimate the power of using ratings and reviews. One more thing before we begin our presentation. When you registered for our event today, we mentioned that you'll receive a free copy of a review trend report from Marie and RealPatientRatings. Keep an eye on your inboxes, as we'll be emailing that to you after the presentation today. And as always, before we begin, I just want to remind you that a 30-second survey is going to pop up with a few questions to capture your feedback after the end of the presentation. It automatically pops up, and this is really how we determine what types of presentations we're going to be doing in the future and what type of education you want us to present. So please take a second to fill this out for us. If you have any questions for Marie, or you're interested in learning more about ratings and reviews or RealPatientRatings, use the survey to let us know. With that said, I'd like to introduce Marie Olesen from La Jolla Cosmetic Surgery Center and RealPatientRatings. Thanks, Marie.
Thanks, Jamie. Hi, everyone. I'm just saying hi, and then I'll close this, and we'll get on with the presentation. And behind me is Melissa, who is the manager of our very successful med spa, and she's here to keep me on track and on time. So I look forward to speaking to all of you. So there are a lot of myths out there, and I've always called myself a database consultant.
Marie, sorry
yes.
to interrupt you. You shut down the presentation, but we can still see your webcam.
Oh, great. That's okay. Here we go. Is that better?
That's better. Yep, perfect.
Thanks. So I have always considered myself to be a database manager, and during the years that I had a consulting team, we were database consultants. And what that means is that there are theories and opinions, but it's really better to try and operate your business and create business and marketing strategies based on the facts. So I want to share some myths with you and then tell you the facts related to them. And you all know about this, the world is flat. It's the biggest myth of all, and it went on for hundreds of years. So I want you to think differently using facts about aspects of your practice and of the consumer phenomenon of ratings and reviews. This is the trends report that you're going to receive, and it will also help you separate facts from fiction. Practice insight is how we think of what we do with the data that we receive as a part of our survey and ratings and review process. And when you think about what are we talking about, what are ratings and reviews reflecting, they're reflecting the patient experience. And so if you have great patient experiences, you can expect to have high ratings and reviews. And in any area where patients are being disappointed in their patient experience, then you're going to find lower scores in that area. But the really good news is that the low scores are actually an opportunity to improve your practice as measured by the only people that count, that is, your patients. So let's start with our first myth. I think this is a very good place to start. So what's the truth about patient satisfaction and the number of patients who write negative reviews? As you can see, less than 1% of patients in a verified system, and this is where we go into the database of the practice, we draw down the email addresses of all the patients who had a certain service or consult, surgery, treatment, and then we send them a survey which they then allow or don't allow us to convert into a review. And about 2/3 of the patients allow their comments to be posted as a review. So you can see overall, based on over 108,000 ratings, 94% patient satisfaction. Of that, 77% of patients are giving you 5 stars, the best possible. This, and then you see the 4s at 17 and approximately 5% here in the 3-2-1 category. That is a very believable distribution, and more what you'll see is that websites are including the distribution. So let's talk about whether ratings and reviews are a fad. I think if a consumer tsunami can be a fad, maybe, but they are here to stay. And let's look at our consumer as they move out on the internet, making important choices that require more technology or knowledge than they may feel comfortable with. So let's look at Amazon buying a Samsung Blu-ray player, and let's just see, what do they have here? They have a 5-star rating scale. They show the review count. They show the ratings distribution with percentages. They identify verified buyers, and they provide sorting functions. So now let's go to Google, and let's try and buy an iPhone, and let's see what we're finding here. They use a 5-star rating scale. They show the review count. They show the ratings distribution. They identify verified buyers. They provide sorting functions, but then they add these key satisfaction criteria, which are very valuable to consumers. And looking next, let's go to Edmunds and look at a car. And so what are we going to find here? 5-star rating scale, a review count, the ratings distribution. They identify verified buyers, they provide sorting functions, and they define the key satisfaction criteria. So now let's look at RealPatientRatings. And so we have a 5-star system. We have 100% verified reviews. We provide sorting functions. We include key satisfaction criteria. We enable popular searches, and we show the ratings count, and the review count. So this is what consumers need to see on a site that contains ratings and reviews, and you need to know that the story that is being told through these ratings and reviews is the actual truth of your practice, and only 100% verified reviews can do that for you. Beneath the ratings and reviews that are displayed publicly, there's the management side. And that is when we're looking at our practice and we're trying to optimize performance, optimize revenue, perhaps grow our practice, then how are we going to do that if we live in isolation? Data from our own practice, we need to know what our patients think. It's not so much what other people's patients think. And we need benchmarking, because if we survey by ourselves and we get a score, we compared to what? So we don't know if we should, have a party or walk off the bridge because we have no benchmarks. So this will give you an example. This is 3 practices, the number of reviews that they have, and their overall satisfaction. And you can see there's variation, and this is, we're talking in here in the percentage of 5s that their patients are giving them. So these are higher scores from these 3 practices than I showed you a minute ago, where the average was 77% highly satisfied patients. The more highly satisfied patients you have, the better it is. It doubles, highly satisfied patients convert twice as well as satisfied patients at consultation. Highly satisfied patients refer at almost twice the level of satisfied patients. So you want to be able to monitor the metric of how many patients are highly satisfied, and are we making progress on that. You need it by procedure and by provider. And so if you look here on the right, this is one practice, and this is a group of providers practice. So if you looked at one of these scores, you'd go, oh, we're really doing well. But the total score for the practice is the sum of the providers. And so that score masks differences in performance by providers, that if you had that information and could use it for management and for training, you could improve your overall score as well. So here's an example of 2 providers, and this is the provider's score. This is on their top procedures, and this is their score. This is all members. And so you can see that provider 1 consistently outperforms all members, and this is her top 3 procedures are Botox, Juvederm, and Restylane. Provider number 2 is actually consistently below the norm, and so this is for Botox, Juvederm, and laser treatments is her top procedure. So if you would imagine these two merged together in one score, you would think, we're okay. But in fact, you have one very high performer and you have one that needs some coaching. And this is how they look in another way. So this is looking at overall satisfaction, likelihood to return, and likelihood to recommend. And so here is the low performers across all the members, then the member average, and then provider 1 is outperforming the average of all members on all these 3 key metrics. And then meanwhile, provider 2, you can see she's above the low performers, but she's not up to the average of all the members. And this is not to be punitive in any way, but when you get patient feedback and you find out what's important to patients, then you can make changes which are obviously going to increase satisfaction. They're going to increase ratings and reviews, and they're going to increase revenue. They're all tied together. Another myth is that what you don't know can't hurt you. And of course, as someone who loves data, I know that what I don't know can hurt me, and so I'm always trying to find out what I don't know so I can learn something new. So I'm going to share 4 different aspects of common myths about patient encounters in consultation. And so let's look at those. So I hear frequently from the podium that it's a waste of time and money sending printed materials prior to consult. And also people don't seem to really understand how the conversion power of making sure that your patients read ratings and reviews prior to consult. And obviously the only way you can assure that they're going to read them is that you have a strategy that puts them on your website, that you send links as you're confirming appointments, because the patient who received reviews, brochures, and forms prior to consultation is 41% more likely to schedule surgery than patients who did not receive any forms or materials, received registration forms only, or received a link to a website. Those people were all less likely to schedule a procedure. And I track this because I keep waiting for the day when the data tells me I don't have to send out these expensive brochures and all the staff effort and cost associated with it. But the facts from from now over 100,000 ratings tell me, no, they want them and you benefit from sending them. So people can think, I'm sort of scared of what the patients are going to say. Rather, be an ostrich and put my head in the sand than actually proactively go out and find out what's happening. And the usual justification for this is that you've got good conversion rates, you've got a good practice. But as the statistics that Jamie was quoting, there's more and more competitive disadvantage to not having reviews, and particularly not having reviews on your website. So we can learn things about all members of our team. And this is a question related to how important is patient satisfaction on this question of, was the doctor interested in the patient's questions and concerns? And when patients were highly satisfied with the perceived interest in their questions and concerns, they were 4.3 times more likely to schedule than patients who were dissatisfied or highly dissatisfied with this interaction. And I'm married to a physician. I work with physicians. I know how hard it is to go and try and get a physician to change their behavior based on what the staff or the women in the practice have to say. And this is where our patients can really help us, because when you go to the physician with the patient scores on this very important factor in scheduling surgery, and you show them their scores and how they're benchmarking against others, they're scientists, they respond to data, and they will change their behavior based on it. I've seen it over and over again. Now, photos. Photos still represent a huge opportunity for practices, but there's a sort of myth out there that says, well, they're on our website, so we don't need to include them in our consultation. And again, we're going to bust that myth, because when patients report in consultation that they were highly satisfied with the usefulness of the before and after photos that they were shown at consultation, they were 65% more likely to schedule. Patients who did not see photos had similar scheduling rates to those who were indifferent about the usefulness of the photos. The fee question. This is a big topic that happens in a lot of practice management sessions, and I've had our fees on our website since the late 90s. We quote fees over the phone. We write down what we quoted them, and what did the patients tell us about the wisdom of that activity, which is, if you tell them the price in advance and you tell them a somewhat higher price, so you give them a range with a high end, they are 4 times more likely to schedule if the fee estimate ends up in the lower end of whatever you gave them in advance. So if you don't give them fees in advance, then you're much more likely to see that they will say that the fees were much higher than expected, and therefore there's a strong correlation to not scheduling when that occurs. So that's just something you really want to avoid. The bulk of your marketing budget should be spent attracting new patients. Now, if you will think about your own practice mix, presumably you've got a good practice with at least 70% retention and referral. And so you need 25% or less for new patients. So reviews are the new advertising. And to the extent that any consumer is shopping in the aesthetic medical space, whether they're your patient coming back to you for another procedure, it's their friend or family member coming to your website to consider you among the referrals they've received from other friends or family, or then we're going to take advantage of the understanding that reviews, in fact, are a way of advertising. They are a statement of the quality of your practice. And you can say, we're wonderful, all over your website, but what consumers say about you in the form of ratings and reviews is 12 times more believable. And so since most of you are going to find that the vast majority of your ratings and reviews in a verified system are highly positive, then why not take advantage of the consumer use of them and let it speed conversions? So if you think about your own website as your house and other people's websites as a vacation rental, then now let's put in your mind your marketing budget. 75% of your practice and your revenue are your friends and their family coming to your house and other things that you're doing with your own social media. Now, that much smaller portion of the practice is to attract people who don't know you on sites that you cannot control. And while some of that is wise, and you can determine the ROI to make sure that it's the right site and the right return on investment, the bulk of your investment should be spent on your own house, making it better, making it more attractive as your own patients return and their referrals come to your website. Consumers want many choices. So smart practices adjust the way they market to the way that consumers want to buy. So I'm going to recommend to you that you investigate your patient experience. We have a special product called PX Insight, and we will send you a special offer about that after this webinar to enable you to get a private look at what your patients think about you, how that would convert into ratings and reviews. And then you can decide based on that whether this has given you what you need to enter the ratings and review arena and to take advantage of the patient and consumer demand to see this information from other people. So now I'm open to any questions.
Well, Marie, thank you so much. We definitely appreciate the presentation. And as Marie said before, all of you will get the copy of that review trends report in your inboxes. We're also going to send you just a little bit of information about that practice insight that Marie had just explained to you. Marie, we, in the essence of time, we're not going to open it up for questions live, but
okay.
I encourage you all to fill out that really brief survey that's going to pop up as soon as we shut down the webinar. If you do have a question for Marie, it's a perfect way to just tick a box that says, yes, I have a question, which is actually a question on the survey, and we'll get in touch with you directly. So thank you all for attending today. Marie, we really appreciate the information. This presentation will be available via recording, and you will all get a copy to view at a later time on your own time. Okay, thank you again, and have a great afternoon.
Thank you all.